2023 with the release date of Friday, May 6th, 2022. To follow in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The following is a QST. Ham radio assists in a human trafficking rescue. Testing continues for wireless transmission of electrical power, and Belgium studies the feasibility of a new amateur band. All this and more as Amateur Radio Newsline Report number 2323 comes your way right now.
From around the world, this is Newsline, Amateur Radio's independent, on-the-air news and bulletin service. And now reporting from Valparaiso, Indiana, here's Paul Brown, WD9GCO.
We begin this week with a harrowing tale of abduction that ended with amateur radio assistance. According to the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, human trafficking is on the rise in South Asia. In India, one woman was rescued from that fate thanks to amateur radio. Jim Meechan, ZL2BHF, brings us that story.
Amateur radio operators in West Bengal, India, helped police locate and rescue a woman who told them she had been abducted and tortured as part of a human trafficking operation. News accounts in the Times of India and the Hindu newspaper both reported that the woman, who was in her 20s and from Bangladesh, had arrived for a visit in Kolkata when she was forcibly taken to a train station for transport. The news reports did not say how she found her way to a telephone, but said she contacted her brother, an amateur radio operator in Bangladesh. Members of the West Bengal Radio Club then received a call from the woman's family. Ambrashna Biswas, VU2JFA of the radio club, said that police in Pindote in Andhra Pradesh state were called. Other hams, including those with the National Institute of Amateur Radio, aided the search for her. A member of the Dolphin Amateur Radio Repeater Club, who was not identified in news reports, told the Hindu newspaper that the woman was soon located, and following her rescue May 2nd through a window, police took a man and woman into custody. Ambrashna Biswas said another ham, Sai Lickett, VU3EFN, accompanied the young woman to the police station. For Amateur Radio Newsline, I'm Jim Meechan, ZL2BHF.
Meanwhile, in the United States, military researchers' latest test of wireless power transfer over microwave frequencies has been called a success. Kent Peterson, KC0DGY, brings us the update.
The still experimental practice of beaming power over microwave frequencies to transfer electrical power using so-called ground mounts has completed its most successful test to date. The United States Naval Research Laboratory recently completed a trial in which 1.6 kilowatts of power was transmitted terrestrially using a 10 gigahertz beam over a distance of 1 kilometer, or 0.6 of a mile. This kind of point-to-point transfer of electrical power is an emerging technology that's becoming increasingly favorable for scientists looking to expand its application. An IEEE paper published late last year said the use of the ground-based transmitter is part of ongoing exploration that researchers hope will eventually open the door to space-to-earth wireless transmission of power. Scientists believe that limiting frequencies in use to those below 10 gigahertz will lessen the loss of power during transmission. Paul Jaffe, KJ4IKI, the project lead, said in an April 20th press release that the systems have been developed keeping safety limits in mind for animals and people. The 10 gigahertz band is already well used by the amateur community on a secondary basis. Amateurs may operate between 10 and 10.5 gigahertz, with amateur satellites operating at frequencies between 10.45 and 10.5 gigahertz. For Amateur Radio Newsline, I'm Kent Peterson, KC0DGY.
Ham radio experimenters in Australia have reported great success with their latest balloon launch, despite a last-minute adjustment to their game plan. Jason Daniels, VK2LAW, has more.
There was a slight change in plans for the high-altitude balloon launch in Australia by Project Horus, a part of the South Australia-based Amateur Radio Experimenters Group. The weather balloon had a successful launch on Sunday the 1st of May, but this was a telemetry-only trip. The imagery portion of the flight was postponed for another weekend. According to the AREG website, the forecast and the expected cloud cover did not make for ideal conditions for imagery. The experimenters group said the flight's goal was to provide receivers in the central South Australia region with a chance to receive the telemetry using the Horus GUI software. The enhancement in plans, organisers proclaimed the flight a success. An enthusiastic Mark Jessup, VK5QI, the lead member of Project Horus, announced on Twitter, quote, "Great to see so many stations receiving," end quote. For Amateur Radio Newsline, I'm Jason Daniels, VK2LAW.
In Belgium, the regulator has received reports of FT8 being used illegally on a band being eyed for ham radio use. Ed Durant, DD5LP, brings us that report.
The Belgian Institute for Postal Services and Telecommunications, that nation's communications regulator, reports that amateur radio operators have been spotted operating using the FT8 mode illegally on 40